This author, Nat Hopkinson, is a culture professor at Howard University. She has hit back, saying that people who have, quote, become white shouldn't be educating black people on oppression, hinting at these Jewish critics. So the bottom line is, are Jews white? Are Jews white? Are Jews white? Well, joining us for our weekly segment, Bottom Line, is Allgemeiner's CEO, David Efunes. So, David, let's jump right in. Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
Well, Natasha, it's important to understand, firstly, the intense sensitivity that this question has for the Jewish community. And actually, it's coming up at a personally very relevant time for me. Today is the anniversary of the passing of my great-grandfather, David Weinstock, who was arrested by the Nazis in Vienna in September 1939. And he was taken to the anthropological department at the Vienna Museum of Natural History, and he was subjected to, together with 440 other Jews, to degrading tests and measurements because he was considered by the Nazis to be of an inferior race. So it really is the height of irony and insult that when Jews express concern about anti-Semitism being ignored and a blindness to anti-Semitism, they're then lumped into the white category.
Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
I want to get Dr. Meyer's opinion on this. Classifying it as white Jew, because we know there's black Jews, you know. How does that make you feel? How does that initially hit you when I say, yeah, you know, if I said black and white Jewish relations?
I guess that's mostly what I deal with is in my courses is those interactions. I think again in America most Jews are Ashkenazi Jews who are white. I think again in America most Jews are Ashkenazi Jews who are white. I think again in America most Jews are Ashkenazi Jews who are white. Sometimes part of the problem between the two communities is that some people will take advantage of that, will use their whiteness as a way of promoting themselves, as a way of integrating themselves into whatever community they want to be in by removing themselves and denigrating themselves from some other community. Right. I find that problematic.
Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
I'm white. I'm white. Unseasoned. A Caucasian. Caucasian. Caucasian.
I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East.
Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
Jewishness is categorized as whiteness. Okay. Here in the States, at this present moment. Right. And in different places and different times, it's been categorized differently. So if I look at the ship arrival records from my immigrant ancestors who came over, under race and people, it says Hebrew there. And this is this is in English in a document that the U.S. government is using. It's 100 and some odd years old. Right. Now, at the same time, Jews in the South were drinking from fountains that were labeled as white. So they were categorized by the government for those purposes as white.
Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
So let's go back to the forward. Can 23andMe tell us if Jews are a race? And is that a good thing? It reads, the idea of race has historically slotted humans into a handful of categories: Asian, African, white, etc. But research has shown that there can be as much genetic differences within these races as between them. And experts say the notion that one skin tone and facial features alone can predict social behavior is plain wrong. It's really important for all of us to resist the attempt to revive this discredited notion that race is a biological category rather than a political and social category, said Marcy Darnovsky, director of the Center for Genetics and Society, a not-for-profit scientific ethics group. Now, these are some of the examples that this article posted of Ashkenazi Jews who use 23andMe to confirm their ethnicity, to confirm what race they belong to. This is a post by Jonathan Paul. Mine came back and basically told me I am extremely white, minus a bit of Ashkenazi Jewish heritage, which is kind of dope because Gal Gadot, and that's the actress who played Wonder Woman. And here's another example they used by Abigail Jaffe. It says, I am 98% Ashkenazi, says 23andMe, and 99.7% European. That is white. And someone responded to her from within the Ashkenazi community, posted this: I am Ashkenazi Jew, and I'm most definitely not a person of color. Never thought I'd have to clear that up, but then they post a link to blogs.timesofisrael.com, which is another Jewish publication. This article made an attempt to say that the Ashkenazi Jewish community, they are a people of color. And then they highlighted actors and actresses and famous people from within that community. They photoshopped, in other words, they toned down their appearance to make them appear to be people of color. I'll post a link inside the description box. So again, resist the attempt to revive this discredited notion that race is a biological category rather than a political and social category. So let's skip down to another part of this article. It reads, Ashkenazi Jews often find themselves in the peculiar situation of being 90% Ashkenazi Jewish and 99% European. Sephardic Jews may be told they are mostly Middle Eastern and North African and less than 10% Ashkenazi. Stuart Schaufman, a travel writer and blogger who writes under the name, and I'm not going to pronounce the full name because of the vulgarity, but Broke Blank Stewart, said he brought a kid from 23andMe because even though his family insists they're exclusively Jewish, he thought there was a possibility that he has some non-Jewish ancestry. I was curious because you never know, said Schaufman. Family stories are just stories. Schaufman, who learned that he is 99.8% Ashkenazi Jewish, said the test hasn't made much of a difference on his sense of Jewish identity. Judaism really informed who I am and my values and my worldview, Schaufman said. 23andMe hasn't made me more or less Jewy at all. I'm just Jewy.
Genetically speaking, are Jews white?
But the fact is that the clan here was not descended from Shem through Judah, right? I mean, it's not descended from that line biblically. But the fact is that the clan here was not descended from Shem through Judah, right? I mean, it's not descended from that line biblically.
They now called themselves Judeans, which they were not. Mind you, the name Jew wasn't invented until the 18th century. Joseph Chagam, king of the Khazars, explained in a letter to the foreign secretary of the Caliph of Cordoba, Hasdai ibn Chaprut, that his people were direct descendants from Japheth, son of Noah. Merchants who traveled through Khazaria had to pay toll, a lucrative way to swell the coffers of the kingdom. The Khazars were different than the peoples from the surrounding countries. They were described as thieves and spies. They were said to be lawless people who lived a life of sin, of sexual extremities and cruelty. They would murder travelers from other countries and adopt their identity. They were masters of deceit. And, last but not least, they were said to worship Baal, also referred to as Moloch, a representation of Lucifer that demanded child sacrifice. In return, Baal was set to reward them with riches, with fame and fortune.
Well, here's the big problem that the United States has, is we've got a probably the largest concentration of Ashkenazi, Khazarian-type Jews on the planet live in the U.S. They have a great deal of money, and money buys influence within our government. And these people are the type that if you won't accept the bribe, they will coerce you some other way, whether it's through blackmail, bribery, intimidation, threats to your family, threats to your children. They will get your attention somehow, and they will try to force you to do what's in their best interest, not what's in the best interest of this country and our people.
Yep.
If you look at our government today and you look at the lopsided representation that they have, they're allegedly 2% of our population, but yet they control 60-70% of government influential jobs. You look at their influence on the Supreme Court, for instance. They're grossly overrepresented on the Supreme Court, considering they're only 2% of the population. It doesn't reflect the percentage of population. It's greatly overblown. They're overrepresented in every government function, and this is by design. They choose these things. They're overrepresented in the media. They're overrepresented in education. They're overrepresented in a number of areas where they have influence and where they serve as bottlenecks. Look at the Department of Justice, the influence that they have in there, particularly in bottleneck positions, as to what cases get prosecuted and what cases get not prosecuted. They have that type of influence. And this is really to the detriment of the American people, the majority of us out here. The other 99 or 98% of the population is conversely underrepresented, and we don't have our interest being promoted. And look at how many dual Israeli citizens we have in our U.S. government. Look at the representatives that we have as far as Congress, the Senate, et cetera. That's just the elected officials. But if you look behind that, and you look at the permanent bureaucracy which is in there, the senior executive service, for instance, look at their makeup. Look at how influential this little 2% of our population is. that over, like I said, they control so many of our government functions. And with the bureaucracy, the problem we have is Congressmen can come and go, senators can come and go, but the bureaucracy lives on forever. Yep. And if they are of a leftist or communist mindset, it doesn't matter that a guy like Donald Trump gets elected because the people want to see the changes that his platform represented. It doesn't matter because the bureaucracy is going to implement things the way they choose to. That stays with what their drive, what their goals are, not with what's in the best interest of the American people. Truthfully, if we wanted to do what's in the best interest of the American people, we would stop all relationships with Israel, because we know Israel has a nuclear weapons program. We know they do. We know they have somewhere between 200 and 400 nuclear weapons on hand right now. And our own government, by supporting Israel financially, is breaking their own laws because Israel has not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And our government is disobeying the own laws that it has passed for itself to live within. That's a problem. At least it's a problem for me. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the amount of money that these people control, and you look at the amount of influence that they have over our government, it's really hard for the regular American citizen, whether they be black, white, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter, to overcome that because we don't have those resources.
So let's break down Ms. Hopkinson's statement that Jews have become white. What do you think that she means by that?
Well, in the language of wokeness, which is how I would describe the ideology to which she belongs, whiteness isn't just a description of the lowest rung on the ladder of victimhood. It's a pejorative. It's an accusation. It refers to an oppressor, a ruling class. occupier or a colonialist, right? So really, in effect, this is another slur that's being used against the Jewish community when they're sort of being branded with this label.
What's your thoughts? Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the, Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10.